So I've refloured my surface, I'm ready to continue. The thing about flour is you do need a little bit of it so that your dough doesn't stick. But you don't want very much because it will burn in the oven. So that's why I don't have any problem flouring a little bit more when I've used up all the flour I have, rather than have a huge excess of flour that I don't have anything to do with. And I'm just going to continue these stretching techniques until I get the dough about where I want it. Now see, it's not really stretching so much for me anymore, so I'm going to actually put this one aside and start working on the other one. Sounds like I have an angry baby in the other room. Set that one aside, go back to work on our first one. Should be ready to continue its stretch along. And that's all I'm going to do, essentially the same processes. Another thing I like to do is just kind of give it a little wiggle. That'll help it to stretch out quite a bit. Once I get the dough stretched about where I want it, I'm actually going to start laying it down on the pizza peel with the parchment paper on top of it. And this is probably about where we want it to be. It might stretch a little bit more as we go along, but that's pretty much going to be the size we want. I can move this one off to the side. Then I got another piece of parchment paper here. I want to avoid having any excess flour underneath the parchment, because when it goes onto the pizza stone, it will burn. So, and a new piece of parchment paper. Okay, so at this point we're going to do any kind of final shaping that we need actually on the parchment. I've got a couple spots here where I've got really big bubbles that I don't want. So I'm very gently going to press those in order to kind of disperse them a bit. I don't want them to break the surface, but I don't want a big bubble in one spot. I can make sure that my dough is even. And the same thing with this one. Make sure it's evenly thick all the way around, except of course for the edge, which is a little bit thicker. You do want this to be fairly thin dough. You don't want it to be a real thick crust. If you like thick crust, by all means, this works just fine for that as well. But for what we're doing here, thinner on the inside and thicker on the edge is actually much better. That's great. This one I think can do a little bit more. Okay, the next step will be to top them, and then we'll get them baked.